Namaskar, respected Joint Secretary Training, Dr. Sandeep Jain, our Under Secretary Training, Madam Sudesh Gulia, our distinguished guest, Mr. Shailendra Sigdel, Statistical Advisor to UNESCO for South and West Asia, and all the principals and teachers who have joined this webinar. I welcome you all to this session. Today we are going to listen to a very important topic of competency-based assessment. So why we have to shift to this competency-based assessment is a big question. And what is it? Actually, competency is an ability to, to understand or to perform an activity, a skill. And when we link it with the assessment, we have to know, okay, what is competency based assessment and how is it different from the traditional one. So when we are doing the competency based assessment, we are concentrating on 5 P's. P1 would be the process. That is, it will be from isolated to integrated, if I'm not wrong. And then from the priority, from evaluation to reflection and feedback, from product of, that is, from scores to evidence, purpose to enhance equity, and partnership, control to coordination. So this is the shift. These are the shifts from the traditional systems of assessment. So without much delay, I would invite Dr. Sandeep Jain, Joint Secretary, Training, to welcome the guest and set the context of this meeting. Dr. Jain.
Thank you very much, Rama ji. सभी को नमस्कार. शिक्षक साथियों, आप सभी जानते हैं कि केंद्रीय माध्यमिक शिक्षा बोर्ड की प्रशिक्षण इकाई विभिन्न समसामयिक विषयों पर वेबिनार्स ऑर्गेनाइज करती है. ये वेबिनार कई बार कुछ ऐसे पर्सनालिटीज के लाइफ पर बेस्ड होते हैं जिन्होंने एजुकेशन को बहुत प्रभावित किया है, और कई बार हम सीधे विषय आधारित या फिर मूल्यांकन आधारित बात करते हैं. आज हम एक बड़े ही महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर एक विशेषज्ञ के साथ हैं, श्री शैलेंद्र सिकदर जी, और आज का विषय जो है वो कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड असेसमेंट है. साथियों, अक्सर इनफॉर्मल डिस्कशंस में, जब कभी भी मैं कुछ एजुकेटर्स के साथ इनफॉर्मल डिस्कशन में होता हूं, तो इस तरह का एक डिबेट सामने आता है कि पेडागोजी लीड्स असेसमेंट. पेडागोजी should be independent with assessment. और कई बार ये बोलते हैं कि assessment leads pedagogy. It is something different. लेकिन कई बार देखने में आता है कि ये जो दूसरा अप्रोच है, ये सुनने में एब्रप्ट लगे, सुनने में awkward सा लगे, लेकिन कई बार ये सच भी होता है. असेसमेंट का पैटर्न चेंज करने से टीचर अपनी पेडागोजी चेंज कर लेते हैं. खैर, ये एक डिबेट है जो इनफॉर्मली अलग अलग फोरम पे सामने आता है. मुझे लगता है आप भी 2-4 हुए होंगे. अब बात करते हैं कि यदि हम असेसमेंट और पेडागोजी के इस डिबेट की बात कर रहे हैं, तो हम लोग नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी में कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन की बात कही गई है. स्टूडेंट्स मस्ट एक्वायर सर्टेन कॉम्पिटेंसीज. द जस्ट सर्टिफिकेट इज नॉट इनफ. आपके परसेंटेज हैं, लेकिन आप उन अपने नॉलेज को रियल लाइफ में ट्रांसलेट नहीं कर पा रहे हो उस नॉलेज का, तो क्वेश्चन मार्क है एक. सो कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन होना चाहिए, एंड कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड असेसमेंट होना चाहिए और इन दोनों को पैरेलल चलने की जरूरत होती है कि कॉम्पिटेंसी बच्चे को दे भी रहे हो और वो उसने कॉम्पिटेंसी एक्वायर की है या नहीं की है उसका असेसमेंट भी होना चाहिए। सो आज इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए और हमें गाइड करने के लिए हमारे साथ एक्सपर्ट हैं श्री शैलेंद्र सिकदर जी। मैं उनका स्वागत करता हूं। धन्यवाद सिकदर जी हमारे आमंत्रण को स्वीकार करने के लिए। नमस्कार।
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for UNESCO to collaborate CVSE always, and it's our privilege. We take it as a privilege to collaborate with such an agency which has a huge network, which along with the huge responsibility.
Thank
And
you.
when
Thank you, sir. But before we invite our guest speaker, I would request Sudesh Gulia ma'am, our Undersecretary Training, to say a few words about our guest and and the work that he has been contributing.
Namaskar, sir. Before I introduce our distinguished expert, first I would like to give a brief introduction of sir. Sir, you are statistical officer in UNESCO for South and West Asia. You have latest education from C.V. Raman University, PhD scholar you are. So you have taken International Institute for Educational Planning, France, Paris, master degree in education, planning and management. You have also taken a bachelor in economics and education from Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu, Nepal. You are serving as statistical advisor to UNESCO, Institute of Statistics based on UNESCO, New Delhi. And you have also served as monitoring and evaluation team leader to Save the Children Himalayan Country Office for Nepal and Bhutan. So you have been an expert in education monitoring, technical review of school education. So you have been education statistician in Ministry of Education, Nepal. So your latest work and experience and publication are, you have worked with technical partner and piloting countries to organize policy linking workshops in Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Nepal, Lesotho and Zambia to set benchmarks of SDG 4.1 and contributed in revision of policy linking toolkit and evaluation of policy linking. So you have been one of the team members from UIS on developing global proficiency framework. So you have been working with the technical partner and piloting countries for AMPL piloting in 5 countries: Zambia, Gambia, Lesotho, Kenya, India. So you have actively provided and still providing technical support to South Asian countries on setting national and regional benchmark on SDG 4. You have been providing technical support to collect, compile, and produce indicators, analyze, and use of data, including learning data. So you have presented and contributed in learning assessment related national and regional workshops and meeting organized by UNESCO, NEQMAP, and including WBG. So you have contributed in analyzing and utilizing assessment data for better learning outcomes. You are co-author for regions of Nepalese students to choose India for higher education. You are a lead author for status of international students in India for higher education, and you are co-author on for higher education in Asia, expanding out, expanding up. Sir, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a great privilege and opportunity for us to join with the CBSE, which is a huge credibility with the huge responsibility. And always the credibility comes with the responsibility, and responsibility comes with the credibility. So the same like the way we have been discussing, that competency-based assessment would be guided by curriculum or the vice versa. So that way, once I try to bring the issue of national context, India context, as well as the little bit in India international context, and some of the exercise. I hope our colleagues are ready to do some exercises on the competency-based assessment. And I will start to give you a little bit, background of the SDG 4, which is the foundation for education at the global level, at the regional, at the country level. You must have seen India's commitment in the G20 recent meeting, in all the global forum. That's how it is committed. So I'll go slowly. Why this is competency-based assessment has come over, and what are the global background is related to. When we think about the Sustainable Development Goal for education, which is education, it has like the 10 targets, and one of the target one is aims to ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, and quality primary and secondary education, leading to the relevant and effective learning outcomes. That's why it has hugely focused on the learning outcomes. So once we go further, then we'll learn more on the how we can measure the learning outcomes by measuring the. So this is the one of the region, the indicator then, the proportion of children and young people at the grade 2 or 3 at the end of primary education, means grade 5 right now, at the end of lower secondary, means grade 8 now, achieving minimum proficiency level in reading and the mathematics by 6. And why it is important? Sometimes we see, the exam, you have a board exam, maybe it is enough, or maybe, like why we need this learning data, learning information. Who needs this? Why it is important? Because whole aspect of going schools, going classes is to learn. So, but we have to measure how students are learning or how it is progressing, whether it is not progressing as per the curriculum framework, as per the assessment framework, whether it is going in the right direction or not. And so that why assessment is should be doing student in the reliable scale, like today a student is a classical theory I'm using here. If a student has got only 60%, maybe we can think about, okay, this is his benchmark, so where he she should be going. Based on that, what kind of policy we need to inform, maybe teacher related policy, maybe finance related policy, or teaching learning policies. How to interact with the student, what are the subject, how to the teach the student, and the instructional response. It means like the teaching learning processes, how to improve the learning outcomes, which is more important to do the assessment. Other is over the time, how it is progressing, whether it has a gap, if there is a gap, in which area. Even in the, let's say in math, maybe algebra, in geometry, or in statistics, and within arithmetic also, maybe 2-digit, maybe 3-digit multiplication has a problem. So that assessment will help you to improve. To give a little bit in a global scenario, most of the country have done the national assessment like NAS in the country, but some of the country have participated in the regional. There is a regional assessment also, like Finland and others. If you see in the South Asian countries, none of the countries has participated on this area. So our region is a kind of left out for the regional assessment. When you see here, the end of primary also, South Asia is again left out. We don't have any, but when you go to East Asia, there is a CIPLAM. When you go to Pacific, there is other. When you go to teams, we have, like the Bangladesh and the Pakistan has participated. None other than that, none of the country has participated. And when it comes to national assessment, every country has done national assessment. all over the world. There are few countries which has not done national assessment. Otherwise, every country has done. Those who have not done a national assessment, most of the European countries are done, PISA or TIMSS. So here I have to ask, whenever you have any confusion, you can stop me anywhere. If you don't understand pizza, is not eating pizza. So that's why I'm asking, whenever you have any understanding problem, if you have issue, feel free to ask anytime. And one of the interesting part is, again, high stake exam, like you have a grade 10 board exam, grade 12 exam, grade 8 state level exam. All countries are doing all over the world in all levels, like in grade 2, grade in the primary, in the secondary. Some country doesn't do in the primary. If you see here in the map, like India, we don't do in the primary level, national level. But looking at the other, like Sri Lanka has done it. The other countries, Sri Lanka is a really a primary examination for the grade 5 examination. But in many countries, you'll not see many primary level other than, like some African countries. But lastly, in the lower secondary, also, some country has done, some country has not done. Now coming back to here, the why learning assessment have, like the regional and the global. You must have heard about the PISA. India has participated in, like 2010. Now still is a plan to do. So what does is PISA means Program for International Student Assessment. It is international. It is developed for 15 years old student. And there is a teams trained for international mathematics and science study. It's for grade 4 and grade 8. And progress in international reading and literacy study, Pearl. It's in reading in grade 4. And the regional data are in Latin America, Africa, and the eastern of Southeast Asia. So there is a Latin America, and then like a SACMEC is in Africa, PASEC is in Africa, Southeast Asia Learning Matrix CPLAM is in Asia, Eastern and Southeastern, but it doesn't cover South Asian part. It has a component of reading, mathematics, writing, and global citizenship. You can see it's a really interesting part is global citizenship has not been measured in any other regional assessment, but it has the component. And the PILNA means Pacific Island, where it's a small country. The number Osmania, it's literacy and numeracy. It also focuses on grade 4 and the grade 6. Do you have any question till now? Or shall we continue?
Sir, please continue.
Okay.
Thank you.
You know what my father used to say, Monam Sammati Lakshanam. Means if people are mourn, it means like it is fine, let's go further. Okay, now the main topic I've started now, what is the competency? Competency is a knowledge, behaviors, attitude, and the skill that lead to ability to do something successfully or efficiently. For example, one of the example is conceptual understanding of mathematics. And competency means a combination of skill, ability, and knowledge needed to perform a specific task. For example, if a person has a skill to do four-digit multiplication, he has a skill, he has a knowledge, and he can perform the task. And what is skill? It's a learned and applied ability. It's not like only, if I take one typical example, how I learn, table, 2 2 2 za, 2 1 za, 2 2 2 za, 4 2 3 za, 6. But if somebody would prepare a storyline, if you have a 6 apple, and if you want to give to equal to 3 people, I don't think many people cannot do it. It means it doesn't have a skill or ability to perform well. He can remember or she can remember that's the multiplication, but how to utilize it to perform a specific task, maybe it is not utilizing. That's why one of the area to focus on the competency. What is competency needed to solve some of the issues? And for example, estimating length. Maybe like many people have the weight. Many people have a like a length measurement issue they have. But how to estimate the length and the weight? If you see have the weight and how to utilize in the day-to-day life or in a story the way it has been asked, and the capacity to verify the standard units. For example, weight can be in kg, in gram, in power. We also say this, and different way. The how to understand how to estimate this. And what is competency-based assessment? It's a process of evaluating or grading, you can say, the learning performance of outcomes without reference the achievement of others. For example, it is not a competition from one student to other. It is learning from yourself. There's what was your benchmark and how you have learned, how you have progressed. And it doesn't have a direct impact on the student. That's why it's called it a low stake. For example, in the grade 12 examination, student has to pass whatever question has been asked, and it has a direct impact on a student, which we call it a high stake exam. Whereas this one is more on the low stake part, and it gives a guidelines for the teachers, for the administrator, for the policymaker, the planners. That's where we should go, where is the lacking, what are the policy and intervention is needed to enhance the learning at the classroom level. And the competency based assessment is criterion based. It means like the how, what are the like a competency somebody has acquired, defined by the curriculum. And during the introduction also we have said that like improved clarity and the transparency, what the benefit it means, and the seamless personalization of learning. It is whenever you will identify if a person, if a student, a group of student also, you can say that have a problem of 4-digit multiplication or in trigonometry and certain aspect of trigonometry, we can focus, and some of the group are having different problems, so that you can identify. And then you can see the move from the assessment to the culture of assessment, because now we are saying that the joint secretary was also mentioning that we are the way we talk, it's based on your experience of few schools or few like informal talk, but it gives a flow to talk or like produce evidence, and they analyze and use the evidences to improve the learning level from the a kind of judgmental statement or based on the experiences only. Now, how to define the map? First, you have to think about how to define. First, you have to define that what are the essential competency need to develop a matter by the learner. For example, let's take an objective of the curriculum of grade 5. I'm just taking a hypothetical example. What are the essential competency is necessary? For example, if you have seen that after completing grade 3 or 5, the children should know the 5-digit multiplication or something, it has been written. Then you have to say that to do this, what are the competency is necessary? What are the like a little objective of these standards? And then these competency will come from where? Largely from curriculum, but in many cases, like many teachers will not have access or maybe even not consulted with the curriculum, and largely based on the textbook. Some cases, textbooks and the curriculum has exactly matches, but our studies were saying that in many countries is the curriculums and the textbook, matching percentage is around 80% only. In some cases, it's less than this. So that way, the curriculum is the guiding principle where we when we introduce the competency-based assessment. And while mapping the competency, you have to think the maps, rubrics, You can make a matrix to organize, to visualize. That's, competency. Maybe you can make a matrix like, okay, this is the objective, learning objective, and these are the skills is needing, and how to, like the measure this. You can also think about your own metrics. Now I'm coming back to now in the Indian context. The number of learning outcomes to be assessed across subject and grade in NAS 2021. What are the, assess this by grade? In grade 3, there is a main area is modern Indian language, mathematics, environmental science, science, social science, English, and total. There are, like a 24 learning outcomes. In grade 5 is 29, grade 8 is 55, and grade 10 is 36 learning outcomes are measured. And you can see in some of the cases in environmental science, it doesn't have in grade 8 and 10. Similar science, social science, and English is not included in grade 3 and 5. Now within science, within math also, then you can say the main domain is mathematics. Then you can subdomain is number system, algebra, trigonometry, coordinate geometry, geometry, mensuration, geometry concerned with the asserting length, area as a volume, statistics, and probability. The way it's been seen, sometimes, like we have a understanding that statistics is always mean, median, mode, or central tendency only. It's not the case. Organizing data is also statistics. That's why the way you have to, develop a metrics, that's who can organize the statistics, raw data into a systemic way, is also should be considered as a statistics. Now, just for your information, I have put only 12 learning outcomes in NAS 2021 for class 10. So I'll give you 1 minute here to at least to digest what are these if you have not seen it. One is generalization, properties of number of relations among them, studies earlier to evolve results such as equally division, algorithm, fundamental theorem, arithmetic, applies them to solve the problem related to real life context. Develop a relationship between algebraic and graphical method of findings the zeros are polynomial. So when you see this, it seems I'm not a subject expert. For me also, it seems so difficult. But whenever I ask one of my colleagues, son, who has just passed out, it seems like it is not that difficult. So that's why when you have seen this, it gives an idea that these are the learning outcomes defined by the assessment. But you can go beyond also visualizing if it is possible, if you are skilled to go beyond. Based on the curriculum, you can also define your own learning outcomes, but not going beyond this, because this is the defined learning outcomes by NCERT. Based on that, the NAS has been conducted. And the statistics part, I see, like being a statist, the last one is calculate mean, median, mode, a different set of the data related to real life context. Why I'm focusing on the real life context? Until and unless you have a knowledge skill of this mean, median, mode to interpret in the real life context, it is not useful at all. If I take my example, when I was doing master, like it was more on the mean, median, mode. I was just remembering formula only. So based on the formula, I pass it, but I didn't realize that's where I will be using this. Once I joined the professional life, then only I can relate myself. That's okay. Okay, mean means this, and how it is related to related to the real life context. For example, if one has 100 number and other has only 10 number, but in average 100 by 100 plus 10 divided 2, it comes 55. if you see the average, it looks nice. But then when you see in the largest set of data, when you calculate the median and more, then only you realize that's how it is really far from the averages. And only can realize that's a student. Let's take one example, the student. When you see the average marks of the student, it's much easier to say this is the average. But when you categorize it, where is the problem? In the mathematics, in the algebra, or in arithmetic, or in multiplication, that way, and being the one context, in the real life context. For example, if somebody knows very much arithmetic, I gave an example, I think one time before also. People these days see lot of sale in the mall, 10% sale or 50% sale. They have to contextualize this. Okay, if I would have bought before the sale, it would cost 100, and when there is a 50% on sale, it would cost only 50 rupees. That way, if it is a total price was 100, that way you have to utilize in the real life context. This is the one of the learning outcomes proposed for the NAS 2021 for class 10 mathematics. Okay, then like the specific performance of the level descriptor, then you have to understand the descriptor. What does it mean? In the class 5 basic, if you have a basic knowledge on this something like a conceptual, what is the competency? Competency is conceptual understanding and procedural knowledge. What does it mean? Reads and write 4-digit number. Compares the number of 4-digit and arrange in ascending and descending order by using place value. The representation of equal part from the whole into fraction from and vice versa. Similar way classifies angles into slight angle, acute. Let's take 1 minute to digest it. It's really a complex and the technical. That's why let's read slowly. Let's say mathematical reasoning, understanding triangular and square. If these things have performed by a student, it will be considered as he has a basic knowledge of mathematics of class 5. Any question right now? No, okay, I'll continue it. And similar way, application, fraction and decimal fractions, compare and then quantifies the things around him using the concept of fraction towards accuracy. These are we call it policy specific performance level descriptors, which you can say it's a definition of a specific competency in elaborated form. If somebody say that's okay, what is the competency? You can say competency is the conceptual understanding the procedural knowledge. Then you can say these are if somebody has this kind of things, he has a basic competency on this area. The same level, advanced. I went from basic to advanced. The competency is the same. Conceptual understanding and procedural knowledge. But you have to think the fraction and decimal fractions, approximation of the area of irregular geometrical shapes using grid paper by counting squares and their fraction part. When you see the basic, it was much easier. Only read and writes and the 4-digit numbers compare the number of 4 digits and arrange in ascending and descending order by using place values. That way, when you go, one is competency, and when you have a competency you identify, then you also categorize in a different way in the 4 categories or 5 categories. Then you can group the student that's okay, he has problem of this, she has a problem of this. Then you can relate, you can introduce a targeted intervention, targeted ways of teaching, targets way of facilitating them. Then I want to take a little bit further again the at the global level how it has been done. So what the global level, many curriculum are in the world is different, their learning objectives are different, their assessment framework are different, and the items are different for the assessment. So what we did it, the international community has done it. They have consulted 73 national assessment framework, 25 countries, and mathematics in reading, and the like mathematics is based on 150 15 national assessment framework and national curriculum framework from 53 countries. Based on that huge number of countries, national assessment framework and national curriculum framework, it has been developed and identify the common areas which has the domain, subdomain, and the skill. So we'll go a little bit further. Then you'll find this one, the book. I'll send you the presentation. You can also download. It defines the global performance standard in reading and mathematics for grade 1 to 9 using 4 level of proficiency. When I say 4 level of proficiency, here I have used the basic and the advanced. So in between there are other 2 also. That's why 4 level of proficiency. And then it helps the country to understand what students should be able to developmentally achieve the student. For example, when all the countries map with this one and see that's where their student, you can also compare with 1 to other countries, but at the same time, it is not necessary, but it helps you to develop your own competency based on the national curriculum framework as well. And then also, it also helps those who are working on the curriculum and assessment framework, what are the like elements is necessary to make our assessment international comparable. For example, we have done exercise policy linking, what our colleague was mentioning while introducing me. In terms of matching, whole our items were really, it was perfectly matches with this one, the global proficiency framework we did for grade 3, 5, and 8 in 2019 and 2021. And it also helps to identify the education delivery. That's okay, where we have a gap and where we should be improving. And it also developed these, okay, what are the skill? Like a GPF is also useful to match the national assessment to correspond with the construct and sub-construct, which, like we have already mentioned, that's when we were here, we're this domain and subdomain. Here it also helps, okay, whatever domain and subdomain we are mentioning, whether it matches or not, it's perfectly matched. That's why it's not the matching, but just wanted to give you idea that at the global level also there is a framework where you can consult and what are the minimum and the highest level of skills has been identified to measure by grade. But it's not prescriptive. It's just a suggestion. It's up to the country to adopt or not adopt. Now I'm coming back to the GPF, how it has been done. Like it also have a number and operation, same like the domain, what like we have seen, measurement, geometry, statistical probability, algebra is largely is the same like what we have. And the whole number in the fraction, decimal, integers, exponents, and the roots, and the subconstructs identify and count in the whole number. The way you have done here is much clearer. You see that identify the count in whole number and identify the relevant. And the magnitude represent whole number. That way, it seems that in number domain, what are the constructs you have to do it, and what are the subconstruct? It helps you to measure. For example, when you measure the student, you have to measure the skill. That's how he or she can identify and count the whole numbers. That way, the last one is solve the problem in the in the variation like a ratio, proportion, and percentage. If I ask the question, what is the ratio and the percentage, maybe all of you can answer it, but maybe the student cannot answer. That's why for the conceptual clarity, the metrics helps you to move it forward. Oh, sorry. Now, same question, whole number. Look at this. Exam whole number. Here is the grade. Identify count in whole numbers and identify their relative magnitude is not relevant for grade 7, 8, and 9. It is only relevant to the grade 6. When you see little bit further, like maybe fraction, solve the operation used in fraction. It is also not useful for grade 1, 2, and 3. It's only start from 4. That way, you can also develop a matrix and construct and subconstructs. What are the measurement needs to be done to identify the competency, and based on the competency, how you can assess. There are many ways to assess. So we'll talk later on. Then similar way in the knowledge and the skill related number, knowledge and skill. The earlier one, like the broad one. Now, like the number and operation in the knowledge and skill, like in reading, example, compare, order whole numbers. Sorry, mathematics. I'm sorry. Identify and count the whole numbers. Identify their relative magnitude, and then like compare with the order with the whole numbers. These mathematical things can be based on the subconstructs. You have to identify knowledge. What the knowledge is it to compare and order the number, skip the count forward and backward. That are the knowledge and skill to required to achieve the competency which has been identified in N1. Now here also it gives something. It's really interesting. There's a count a whole number up to 30. Then like you have to go. It is relevant to grade 1 only. Count the whole number up to 100. That's where you can think about how to disaggregate these things in your classroom. Maybe if you are teaching in grade 10 or grade 8 or grade 11 or 12, you have to think for this detailed one, so that when you are measuring, you have to be clear on that's what you are measuring and what are the skill is needed as per the competency and how you can measure. And I'm coming back to the NAS. NAS has also competency, conceptual understanding and the procedural knowledge. When a student doesn't have a knowledge of place value, doesn't have number sense, and not able to make equal part, it is considered as below basic. But the same competency, conceptual understanding, and procedural knowledge, if a student has fraction and decimal fractions, approximation area of irregular geometrical shapes, using grid paper by counting squares, and their fraction part is considered as advanced. Same way, problem solving, unable to number sense and make equal parts, is considered as below basic, and they generate the different number from the given digit more than 4 digit and make series of number, then arrange in ascending and descending order, can use different operation, depends on the context, and solve the problem in multiple ways, is considered at the advanced skill. A group of student have it. Now the grade 10, you have below basic, you have basic, you have proficient, you have advanced. So you can see that the learners at this level are at the early stage of development regarding curriculum standard. They are not achieve the required knowledge and skill to be considered minimal successful regarding the curriculum demand. That's why how the curriculum demand, previously we talked about the competency, where I will bring your attention here, where you have mentioned the learning outcomes are, the mention in the assessment. So based on this, here we have been analyzing, the NCERT has been analyzing. So this way we can categorize in the like a four standards. One is below partial limit, and the global minimum and exit. So these are the like a same way how to define completely based on this four benchmark: partial limit, meet, and exit. There are definitions. I will not go detail, but we'll have this presentation. So now coming back to again the principle of the competency base, it emphasis on the competency based teaching learning, not rote teaching learning, because one of the area we have been, how I have learned, and many of you we have learned, that's a multiplication table, like a 2 to 4, not like a, how this 2 twice 4 has come. Instead of this, we straight jump into 2 that is always 4. One is the competency associated skill, like competency is what I have a knowledge of 10, like a multiplication of 3 digits. But then skill and knowledge, what kind of skill you need it? Understanding, interpretation, and use in the real life. It also enhances the knowledge of the learning outcomes, because sometimes many people you have seen is examination pass rate is going really up, but when you see the NAS result is showing a low number. Maybe this could be, I'm not sure, it could be the reason that the many students are prepared, or we have been preparing students for the examination, not for the skill and for the knowledge which like which comes from the standardized test, including us. When the teaching learning process is not competency based, only test cannot be competency based. That you have to match between the teaching learning processes along with the assessment processes. And it really helps to identify the areas of gap and strength of each student on the specific skill needed to achieve the curriculum goals, which will be really helpful as the education quality. And how to design now? We have been talking till now, like the one of the is a mapping competency, but it is not enough. That's only mapping. You can develop the test. Test could be based on the quizzes, based on the multiplication, MCQ. Maybe sometime you can also mention the portfolios. Sometimes you can also ask for the project. Sometimes you can also do a simulation. And sometimes you can also interaction interview, and you can also sometimes ask the student to do a self-assessment. There are many ways to do it, but the key principle of the competency based assessment are they are valid, reliable, fair, transparent, and flexible, because this is not rigid. The most important part is we have to measure that's what learners can do, not what they know. It means like what they know is no, what like they can do. Maybe like they know the multiplication, but whether they can do in the real context or not. And then like it is not necessary to you should provide the score, grade, or something. Okay, you are passed, you failed, you have 60%, you have 70%. Not necessary to. At least we have to identify. Okay, this is area you have lacking. Maybe this is the area to improve. Then while teaching, it will be good to focus on those area where the student have some gaps. So once you apply the same criteria and clear criteria and standard, it will be much easier to follow up. That's okay. We have done this. We have done this. And at the same time, it is not only doing one-way communication. Then we can also, once we have done it, you can also provide the student the feedback. Okay, you have this much of you have done. Maybe like some area is you have to improve, but not like a penalties. This doesn't like allow you to in principle allow you to penalize the student. It's the basic teaching learning is the bigger policy issues. That's why you'll be providing feedback to the student to improve the learning. And definitely like it's we have to be very flexible to accommodate diversity and performance of the learner. Nobody knows everything. I think so the basic principle is that way slowly, like the student, all the student will reach on that level, at least, if not the, like the below basic, at least basics or more than this will achieve the stipulated time. Do you have any question right now? Otherwise, we'll go for the exercise. We have
Sir,
around
we can go ahead with the questions, sir.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is the question. It is on a screen. Here also nobody is right and nobody is wrong. Everybody is right, could be. But this graphic, this is the question I have taken from PISA 2006 open item. The graphic below shows information about export from Zland, a country that uses Zs as its currency. The total annual export from participants should think about for 2 minutes. What skill is needed? Let's focus on first. Anyone wants to contribute, please feel free.
Sir,
Yes.
you were asking something?
Yes, I asked,
Hello.
in this exercise, what are the skills is needed? Multiplication or statistics or trigonometry?
Okay.
What
You
are
are
the skill
asking
is
that.
needed?
So I'm sorry, I was not able to hear to your question. So listen to your question. So if you can repeat, I
Okay,
will answer.
don't worry.
Yeah.
I say that, these are the graph, this is the real items which was been used for the PISA in 2020, 2006. And I'm asking in the left side of the screen, what skill is needed to solve the problem? What skill is needed? We have been talking about the skill. What skill? We know it's a mathematics, but which skill? Like percentile, decile, quartile, mean, median, mode, or
I'm so
graphical
sorry, sir.
representation. Sorry, please.
Actually, sir, I think only we will be answering you because the participants are not able to give the answer, and I'm not a
Okay.
very good student of this.
Don't worry. I'm also not. What I wanted to give an
So,
example that whenever
yeah.
like sometime we say is a competency based assessment is easier, but at the same time we have to also think about the mapping of the skill. Once we have a skills mapping, then we can do it. If this is the case, then I will ask only the question number 1 below. What was the total volume millions of export from G line in 1998? Okay, then I will answer. It's okay.
Sure, sir. We are expecting answer from you.
Okay, I also say that I'm not the expert on subject. When you see this, it's a graphical presentation, no? And it's largely either counting or arithmetic thing. So question was, what was the total volume? First, I will go in the million in 1998. So when you say this year is 98 and the 27.1 million has been exported, that's clearly written here. So there were few questions, included only one. But now coming back to skill, what are the skill? Like we have talked about here. The whenever you go in the skill, then you have to go like let's say in the grade 10. It's a number relation to among the study earlier evolved results such as this one, develop relationship between algebraic and graphic method. This way you can link with these learning outcomes and then skill. What kind of skill you have to do this, that will help you to match. Sorry, here like multiplication, two-digit multiplication, two-digit graphic reading. That way you can do it. Same way, then you can also relate to the what are the learning outcomes for NAS grade 10 is related, because in our case it's a grade 15 means around 8-9 student. Let's go to other. Second one. In the mathematics class, one day the height of the student were measured. Average height of boys was 160 centimeter and average height of girls was 150. Alina was the tallest and her height was 180 centimeter. Zedek was the shortest. His height was 130 centimeter. Two students were absent from the class that day, but they were class in the next. The height were measured and average were recalculated. Amazingly, average height of the girls and the average height of the boys did not change. So which of the following conclusion can be done? That's really interesting. When you see this, student, it's a height. But the interpretation skill, using in the real life, what we have been talking about, this skill is important. So here, most of the people know how to measure the height. One is 100, 180, one is 130, other is something, how to make it average. Also, people or student can do it. But to interpret in a way that's it's reflect to the real life. This is the real life example. That's the average height of all students didn't change. Yes or not? So that way you can interpret by linking with the skill as well as the competency and the learning outcomes. So anyone can do it, or maybe we can do homework. Let's not waste time. This is the example only. Let's go the other one. Draw concentration. Before I go here, we have a CBSE colleague also. Do you think our student of grade 9 and 10 can do this type of questions? This type of questions answer? Or is too difficult or too easy or a middle level? It is only perception, not evidences. But
Yeah. Please, you spell out the question. We can just guess and tell you whether it is possible for us students to solve it or not.
yeah, the statement in the question one, it says that's the student height. They have measured the two student heights and then asked both students are girls. Yes or no? I say, when you say, for me, I know it's no, because they just mentioned that the measured average height of boys was 160 centimeter and the average height of girls was 150. It means like both students are girl. No, boys and girl. So similar way, the one of the student is boy and other is girl. Yes. Both the students are the same height. No. The average height of the student didn't change. Yes, because like it's the same way, same time it was measured. Janek is the shortest. Now Janek was the shortest. Exactly. Yes. So I was asking whether our student, our general student, I'm not saying that the brilliant one or the like the one, can do this kind of uh, question of answer, because it is related to knowledge and skill in the real life.
I think it's possible.
It's possible. Okay,
They
good.
would be able to do it.
Okay,
Yes.
nice to hear this. And how many student teacher can do, by the way? All of them?
Definitely. They
Okay, great.
have to know.
Okay, let's do the last one maybe. The drug concentration. Because I know a little bit math, that's why I have used only the mathematics one. But the basic idea was to give a what is competency based assessment, what are the how to map the skill and the competency, so that like you can develop the items and you can develop you can say the questions. A woman in a hospital receives an injection of penicillin. Her body gradually breaks the penicillin down so that 1 hour after the injection, only 60% of the penicillin will be active. Same like like when we take paracetamol, it lasts generally like a 6 to 8 hours. Similar way, it says the same. The pattern continues. At the end of each hour, only 60% of penicillin that was present in the end of previous hour remain active. Suppose the woman is given a dose of 300 milligrams of penicillin at 8 o'clock in the morning. Complete the table showing the amount of the penicillin that will remain active in the woman's blood intervals 1 hour from 8 hours to 11 hours. This is also similar in a way that it's a simple arithmetic. How difficult this question is?
It's percentage calculation.
Exactly. Percentage and the like, yes, percentage and the simple arithmetic. That's why I say this is the 4 function only. But it is not like the multiplication table or something, but using if a student has a understanding of that multiplication table or simple things, anyone can do it. So how easy or how difficult this question is?
It's of average difficulty, not very difficult and not very easy either.
Okay. So that's one of the questions we have to also keep in mind, that how to measure the complexity. So there is a principle. This is the principle. That's the complexity schema, the way we call it in the technical term. Factors that impact on the item difficulty. There are, like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 criteria that you can measure. That's the how it is difficult, how it is easier. For example, complexity factor 1 is matches on the problem and the transparency. If it is clear, everything is maybe like something. That way we can see that's the how difficult. There are 5 criterias thinking about which items are difficult and which items are easier. This I have taken example for the PIAC. That's where they have measure the item difficulty, how which items are difficult. But at the same time, there is a elaboration, like how to score 1, how to score 2, how to score 3, and how to score 5, and the symbol and combination. Like if something has mentioned is score, we have to give score 1. If something's difficult mention, it score 2. But to make it your life, sometime distractor, like the also very useful to understand. One is the if you put a distractor, something different. For example, if you ask a question, where is the Mount Everest? And in the option, you put only Nepal, and then you mention all the Latin American and African country, everybody will answer correct. I'm right?
Yes, you are right.
But in the option, the question will be the same. But the option, Nepal, India, China, or Bhutan, then people have a confusion. So that's why it's not only items. At the same time, we have to also think about the options. That's what we have doing given to the student, so that it distracts the student from one to other options. Lastly, I have finished whatever I wanted to say, but exactly like I really wanted you to discuss among ourselves it which competency these items related to NAS competency, both GPA and NAS have these competency are included. Yes, of course, all are included. And how to assess the competency by the relevant item, because it's not only question is how to define the competency, but you have to also think about the how to develop relevant items to measure the relevant competency is equally important. Now, I would like to hear from the participants, comment, questions, everything.
So I think in this platform, we won't be able to take the questions from the participants since the WebEx platform manner that they cannot even. So I think, but you have brought the student out in me. I have been a very bad student of maths anyway. So um,
Okay, then maybe what we can do, I think one
yeah.
of maybe we can summarize saying that in the competency-based assessment, it was not a rocket science. We have been doing for many things, but the only thing, we have to think about from the a different perspective, that's what skill and knowledge we are talking about and which we are, measuring against the curriculum framework, which is identified by the learning outcomes. When you identify learning outcomes there, then you can think about okay, these are the outcomes is necessary to achieve the goal of the curriculum, and then you develop whichever you call it, questionnaire or items, whichever you call it. While developing it, it is not the punishment for the student. To The motive should be to enhance the learning of all the student. Different student have a different ability, different competency, but how to achieve as much as possible the higher level of competency, higher level of, not, I'm not using the term the score, but we can say that's a higher level of knowledge relevant to the curriculum framework should be achieved together with the teacher, with the supervisor, with the CBSE, with us, whatever we can provide the support. So we still have 10 minutes.
One question is, when you are talking about, high order thinking questions,
Yes.
yeah, so how to make, this assessment relevant for all level of students, whether they are very bright, they are average, and kind of thing. How to, together we cannot do, right?
I think uh, yes and no. Yes and no means high order, this kind of items, this kind of whatever you say the question. Definitely, student, we cannot imagine that all students have a same ability and same background, same thing. It gives you that's where they stand, and based on, if you start, let's take an example. If we start from the grade 8 or beginning of the grade 10, maybe we can think about, okay, this group of students have a problem of something and particular area, so that the teacher can focus to those students on that particular area, and some other is have a different problem, a different understanding, or different issues, so that she can guide, or her teacher can guide them to bring together. It's a tools to bring together to the student, learn from each other. One. Second is not like a punishing, not like saying that you are poor or you are bad or you're good or something, to understand the whole, to achieve the whole goal of the curriculum, not in one side or one particular chapter or something.
Yes, you are very right. Actually, to identify the areas of where they need help and then
Exactly.
give them the support accordingly.
Exactly.
Yes.
But one of the problem is when this kind of thing, sometimes teacher alone cannot do it, because they also need some kind of support. For example, like the most of the developing country teacher training have many tricks and techniques, as well as like lab facilities. Let's take an example. schools are more facility than others. Maybe they can some school can use the animation to make them understand. Some school may not be. That's why one is not only the teachers. It also depends on other factor also. We have to combine both and what we can offer to each student or each schools so that they understand mathematics or reading in a way that they understand and
Uh,
yes.
it's a daunting task, and we must give credit to our teachers that in
Yes,
spite of all these difficulties, they are able.
this is, I'm not saying the big classroom, but the largely, the if I take an example, some of the school I have seen in the huge big classroom, but their quality is not that bad as a small classroom. I think it also depends on the how to you teach, how to engage the student. That would be another way to look at, which is I'm not the expert. That's why I'm saying that. So that when I was discussing with the Ram Sankarji, that's in the teaching learning process is not my area. My area is more on the assessment. That's why one of the maybe next session we can think about how to make it happen in the classroom with the help of teacher. That would be one of the area to think further.
That would be really great, sir. That is where when we take the actual problem. And since I have been a teacher myself for 35 long years, nobody can, my experience says that with the large size of class and with different levels inside the class, it's a real challenge, a daunting
Yes.
task for us.
But slowly, I think it can be done. Like like my, if you see the average level class size is not that big, but definitely individual school are different. When we work together with the student, maybe this is one of the area to achieve, and ultimately we have to achieve the goal of the curriculum. This is our national task, national objective, national goal, which which is one of the tasks is the learning and learning and learning, but the holistic development, how you can measure by using the competency based tests. That's one of the area. It's not only like that we are talking right now, it's more on so-called, I'm an economist, that's why I use the term cognitive and non-cognitive, but many people doesn't like this word. All are cognitive.
Very true, sir. But it is such for an average teacher, it is a daunting task, and that is why they just resort to the rote learning method ultimately, because parents they want the results, students they want the marks in the
But it doesn't last, no, I think
and
the
as a result,
maybe
the teacher surrenders to that particular style. Yeah.
I think one of the way, it is not the long term, it will hamper both teacher and student, because I told you when I completed my master degree, I was only able to how to calculate standard deviation, but I didn't know what does it mean. But right now, standard deviation, you open the Excel sheet, you can like even calculate, you can do it. But until and unless you use the competency to interpret and to use in the real life, in long term, hamper the whole nation and the student. I think the right time to think about as much as possible. I'm not saying it's we can do by next year, no, but at least we should be doing in that direction so that maybe later on, sometime after maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we'll produce a student who will be
Of course,
logical
we have to be
as a
persistent in our efforts in that direction. I think that would help, and definitely I'm hopeful that it is going to happen. And thank you so
definitely.
much,
That's it.
Mr. Shailendra, for such a wonderful session. And if it had been interactive, you know, proved that the I salute.
Thank you very much.
Would like you to be there in a session with teachers on face-to-face basis so that you can take their questions, and it can be a fruitful session. more interactions with you on this topic. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Shailendra. And I also thank our director training, who is always keen on such areas where teachers' problems can be addressed, and the area train Dr. Ramkar. I thank Dr. Jain, our Joint Secretary Training, for being the inspiration behind it, and also, conducting this session and being with us throughout this session. And I thank Madam Sudesh Kulia for facilitating all the technological aspect, creating the link, and she will be. It will be simulcasted on the YouTube. This session, it will remain there on YouTube, CBSE YouTube, and teachers who are not able to attend now can view this program later on also. And I thank all the other members who have been somehow they have been helpful in the arrangement of this program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was privilege. I told you earlier, it's a UNESCO great privilege, and a special thanks to my colleague Sarita, who is always insisting me to do this, and the Ram Shankar, he is always we have to do quickly. So it was a pleasure, and whenever if it is related, if the teachers have any questions on this area, would be happy to address also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye bye. Bye.